North Smithfield Town Council, April 5th, 2021. Madam Clerk, will you lead us in the prayer and the pledge, please?
Lord, assist us by Holy Spirit of counsel all those who are serving in positions of authority and responsibility. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Roll call.
Ms. Howes? Here. Mr. Corvo?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Present. Mr. Vadnez?
Here.
Mr. Biragad?
Here. All right, before we begin, we're just going to make some changes to the agenda. First of all, if you notice to my left, we have Carter Shadier sitting here. Carter is a student interested in government, and he's a student at Woonsocket High School. He is also a member of We the People, and we will, from time to time, be inviting students to join us and get a first-hand look at how local government is run or not run, however you want, whatever your take on it is. And Carter is the first one, so welcome, Carter. And a couple of, let's see, we're going to just a couple of changes to the agenda. Executive session will be moved to the bottom of the agenda. And under new business, letter E, we're going to move that to the top. That's Mr. Black's citation. We're going to move that to the top of the agenda at this time. Ms. Ellis?
Can I also make a request to move new business, letter J, discussion vote or other action on Maury Tower to the beginning of the agenda?
Sure. We'll make that change. Now, if we could have Mr. Black and your family please come up, please step up. Mr. Black is was the owner of National Marker, and during his time as the owner and president of National Marker, his generosity knew no limits. He never said no. He was extremely generous. So we decided that upon your sale of the business, Mr. Black, that you were worthy of a citation from the town as a sign of our appreciation. So I decided to do a little homework to find out what exactly over the years Mr. Black has been contributing, and I came up with about 100 different things. So I had to limit it, but I will go over a few of the ones that I highlighted. So if you just bear with me, this is just a few of Mr. Black's contributions to the town. Senior graduates, if you remember last year, they had a terrible year as far as graduation goes, and Mr. Black tried to help out, and he made sure that there was, he had made big heads, you know, the big heads for every one of the kids in the class. And they were put on the front lawns of every one of the students. 8th graders, the ones that graduated 8th grade and went into moving into high school, Mr. Black provided signs for all the 8th graders moving up into high school. He supported the town soccer. He donated metal engravings to ensure that all the fire trucks were up to spec. He made the signs for the NSAA, so all proceeds could be kept for the athletic association. The high school robotics class, he donated the money to get it started and continued with support with that class over the years. He also invited elementary school students to a day of manufacturing. And I know this firsthand because my daughter took part in this when she was in elementary school. And what that was is he invited the elementary school children to come to the school, to go to his business, and he took them around the business, showed them how it was done, and they came home with a whole bunch of goodies, including hard hats and vests and all kinds of things. He donated signs to make sure that the hallways were compliant at the new addition to the elementary school. He served as president of the NSA board with all new members, raised over $100,000 for high school sports. I'm sure a lot of that was money that he donated. Very involved with special needs kids in town with visits to National Marker, sponsoring specific visits, making the banners, and when North Smithfield was recognized by the state. He also made fatheads for all the players and volunteers that were involved in unified sports. He supported the police. He actually purchased a canine for the police department.
Oh.
Donated all the banners for the Pumpkin Fest. He provided the street signs for the town of North Smithfield. Continued to sponsor soccer leagues and North Smithfield Little League teams over the years. I'm sorry if I know this is the list, I could make the list a lot longer, but I'm gonna. He donated $7,500 to the Northman Engineers Robotic Program. And also he donated a $30,000 printer to the high school. And once again, I'm going to end it there, but Mr. Black, we are very grateful for everything you've contributed to this town. And I know that you wanted to say something?
Yes, and if I'm covering my mouth, it's not for the virus, but most of my teeth are broken because of surgery. Children, I'm going to speak to you. When I was your age, I was taught by my mother in the first generation in the country that the measure of success is not what you accrue, but if you leave this world a better place than the place that you entered. Needless to say, your father had a little help because I was also taught that behind every good man is a better woman. And we know that applies here. So you are very lucky to have been given your parents as as models. And hopefully you will carry on family tradition. We have, first of all, ladies before gentlemen. This is for being the person that you are.
Mr. Black, if you could come forward, please. I'd like to present you with this citation as an appreciation to the town and the town council and the administrator, but the town is very grateful for everything you've done. For the family, I'm going to put this in the forward this. Why don't you guys, just for the picture, you can take the mask off.
Surprise, I recognize you.
Do you want to?
Yes, Paul.
I was not prepared to say anything, but I think it's going to come very natural. Mike Black and the Black family have been so philanthropic to our town. Words cannot express how grateful the residents of this town are to the Black family. Thank you very, very much.
I'm sorry, I was just, well, we all appreciate everything that Mr. Black and his business and his family have done for the town. A lot of people don't realize he made one big commitment years ago. He could have moved the business out of town and he made a commitment to keep it here. And we should recognize that as well. A lot of people don't realize that.
That's a great point.
He made a huge commitment to keep the business in this town.
That's a great point.
We appreciate that.
You don't do this for recognition. Less than the opportunity that we were able to count so much of us. And I just want to thank all of you in this room as elected officials of town that you guys work very hard and very little recognition for what you do, which change people's lives every day. And your heart and your head to the town doesn't work with individuals that work with partnership. With myself and Michelle, my I like to do that. We're doing what you do with very little lack of thank yous that go along the way. But there are large people that have what you do. It doesn't work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Just better go in my personal office, so thank you.
See you later. Thanks.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on now to open forum. Pursuant to Rhode Island 42-46-6. Madam Clerk, is there anybody in the waiting room that would like to speak at open forum?
Yeah, Kyle's running it, but I do not see.
Cynthia, is anybody asking?
Wait a minute. Just one.
Yes,
Hang on.
there's Cynthia Roberts.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, can you hear me?
I can't control that.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
you're
thanks.
on.
Thank you. This is Cynthia Roberts, 49 Week Street. And I'm pretty sure there's other people who also would like to speak during open forum. So I'm keeping my comments brief and to the point. This is directly addressed to Town Council member Mrs. O'Hara. Mrs. O'Hara, it's been brought to my attention by a person in the community who saw a post on your social media that you made about transgender people. And I'm here to speak as a resident who's also a public health professional who works in the prevention of gender-based violence. And it was inappropriate what you said about science and gender and trans people. And you were promoting an article that is hurtful to trans people. And there are trans people in this community. All of us have, many people have trans friends, colleagues, children, family members. And we are asking you, we are calling you in to learn about what actual transgender health and transgender issues are, because you're incorrect what you said in your statement, and it's hurtful and painful. And I'm gonna mention a few statistics from Rhode Island Youth Behavioral Survey that talks about risk factors associated with youth who are trans or gender nonconforming. And I'll just get right to the point. And I have a letter ready to send to you, but I'm under the impression that you do not check your email. So I'd like to understand the best way to get this to you so you can have resources and facts. So some of the facts are, and this is from the Rhode Island Youth Risk Behavior Survey out of the Department of Health, 19% of Rhode Island school children, students, are gender expansive, and that means androgynous and or gender nonconforming. 44% of Rhode Island gender expansive high school students felt sad or hopeless almost every day for at least 2 weeks in the past year when this survey was given. Compared to cisgender youth, that is youth who identify with the gender they were assigned at birth, gender expansive youth are 3 times more likely to miss school because they felt unsafe, 2.5 more times likely to attempt suicide, 2 times more likely to be bullied. And they also are more likely to get poor grades, ever use cigarette or marijuana, or to have taken prescription pain medication without a doctor's permission. LGBTQ+ youth are more likely to be homeless, and many trans youth have really terrible experiences trying to play sports because of how they're treated and how they get assigned and categorized. And also transphobia is a root cause of multiple forms of violence. In Rhode Island, we have Thunder Mist, a trans-friendly healthcare provider. And we also have Dr. Michelle Forcier, who's a professor at the Brown School of Medicine and a nationally recognized expert on pediatric trans health. I invite you to learn more about these issues so that you do not, as a person who holds a public office in our community spread things that are hurtful to other people who are trans or who have trans family and friends. Thank you for listening to me.
Is there anybody else out there that would like to be heard during an open forum?
Yes, I would like to, please.
Oh, hold on a minute. Cynthia, who was that?
My name is Elijah Leduc, 90 Woonsocket Hill Road.
Okay, Mr. Leduc, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm actually would like to address the same issue, the same topic. With the amount of violence and discrimination that trans people already must endure day to day, the post that Mrs. O'Hara shared is not helping the environment. Trans people's existence isn't harming anybody or interfering with our lives in any ways. I think you have a responsibility to the community and the people that you represent, not to just share things that you think may be true or things that seem to be aggressive and hostile. The people of this town rely on you to represent them and their ideas as well. And Mrs. O'Hara, unfortunately, quite a few people I know who know you have seen this Facebook post and are very hurt and upset and disappointed. Unfortunately, a lot of alumni who are members of the LGBT community are heartbroken that you've said these things. That's all I have.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Cynthia,
I'd like to
anybody
say
else out there that
something.
wants to be heard?
I don't see any hands up, but I just heard somebody's voice.
I'd like to say something. It's Megan Staples, 75 Bellevue Avenue.
Go ahead, Ms. Staples.
I just wanted to echo Cynthia and Elijah's comments. What Ms. O'Hara posted was completely inappropriate. It's 2021. There's absolutely no excuse for it anymore. At this point, it was a choice that was made, a very ignorant one. And I would really like Ms. O'Hara to endeavor to educate herself on the trans community and the struggles that they face. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else out there that would like to be heard for open forum? Just speak up if we don't see a hand being raised. Okay. I think that's it. Let's move on. And move on to old business. Discussion by council about other action on update of the municipal building review task force. Mr. Nordstrom with us tonight?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Do you have an update for us?
Just a quick update. Last Thursday, the task force met. We had our kickoff meeting with Tecton Associates, the architect who is doing the police station study. And if all things go according to schedule, that will be completed the end of July. And they've already started to work. And that's my report.
Okay, short and sweet. Okay, moving on to new business. Discussion by council about other action on the Hallowell Review Committee. Mr. Corvo, do you have an update for us on the Hallowell Review Committee?
Yes, I do. So we held our first Hallowell Review Committee last week. So to be specific, it actually on March 25th. We had it right here in Chambers, and it was a very good meeting. Everybody was in attendance. We did elect the chair and vice chair, as well as the secretary. The chair was given to Jeff Porter. The vice chair was given to Christopher Simpkins, and the secretary was given to Bobby Bradford. They were all nominated and voted unanimously. We also talked about ideas that were brought up in the past on what to do with Hallowell. Obviously, nothing was decided at that time. but it was nice getting a good mix of everybody's perspective. Then from there, we ended up discussing the proposal from Weston and Sampson. We're continuing that discussion in the next committee meetings to come. We did determine that Thursdays work best for the committee meetings, so we're going to be having a committee meeting twice a month on the first and the third Thursday of each month. Last, we talked about grant writing opportunities. We had Tom Kravitz there to answer some questions for us and give us some ideas of certain grants out there that he feels as though we might have access to. And Tom graciously said that we could use him as a resource for that. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Corvo, because there's such an interest in this committee and what happens with Hallowell, would you be opposed if I put this on the agenda on the whole business as every meeting and just give us an update as we go along?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that, you know, for now, meeting twice a month, I think we'll certainly have plenty to review, plenty to talk about, and I'd be more than happy to act as that resource.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to get updates on that. Thank you.
Mr. President, Jeff Porter just raised his hand.
Mr. Porter?
Hi. I want to second everything that Steve has addressed to the town council. It's my understanding that Mr. Kravitz, the town planner, has forwarded you folks a revised contract based on our discussions from our March 25th meeting. Do you guys have that?
We do have that.
Okay. Would it be in essence of time, because I know this project has been kind of hanging over our heads for quite a while. I'm just curious if the council would entertain me explaining what we discussed at the meeting a little bit in further and potentially asking for a roll call vote to move the contract forward as it's amended in front of you tonight, if you guys will entertain that.
I have no objection to it on principle, but because it's not on the agenda, I really can't, we really can't move to make a vote on anything like that.
Okay.
We all have the contract. We can all review it. It was in our packets. But it's nothing that we can vote on because it's not on the agenda.
Okay. Then I would respectfully ask that you make sure that it's on the agenda for your next meeting. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more information to provide to you folks to move this forward. So I just respectfully ask that for the next town council meeting that get put as the agenda items to so we can move that forward.
Madam Clerk, we'll make sure that's on the next agenda. Thank you. All set, Jeff.
All right, thank you very much. And then if you have any questions for me, I'm certainly here to answer anything. As Stephen said, you know, we're all very excited to move this project forward and get moving on it. So it's very exciting to hear some of the outpouring, and we're just happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Hey Jeff, one last thing I just want to add. With the revised proposal from Weston and Sampson that we do have copies to, I would recommend that, you know, and I know that they're meeting on April 15th, I would recommend that the committee reviews this information and then, you know, makes a recommendation from the committee, and then that would then in turn come to the council for a discussion or a vote.
Yep, certainly. Certainly agree with that. We got our plates full. That's for sure.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Discussion by council vote on other action on National Land Surveyors Developers Incorporated. It's a walking trail easement. Survey lot 25, lot 418. Mr. Kravitz, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Did you want to speak on this, sir?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief background to it. When shortly after the town acquired the Sousa property, we explored with the Conservation Commission the notion of, and I've got the land trust informed of these discussions too, the notion of trying to connect the two pieces, that being the Sousa property and Booth Pond land to the north. And I've worked with National Grid just through some emails. We have confirmation from Grid that says, yeah, they'll consider this if we want to draw up an easement plan to connect those two open spaces. And I got endorsement from the Conservation Commission officially on it. And so they're technically the ones moving it to you. And we're asking you just to let us approve this contract, which I have the money already in my planning budget to do the surveying. And we can just try to get an easement on paper to connect the two parcels.
Mr. President, a question for Mr. Kravitz.
Mr. Bennett?
Lot 25 and 418, are they only divided by the National Grid power lines, or are there other property owners that are breaking the connection of the two?
I've only selected the National Grid properties to achieve this. So right, there are multiple properties owned by National Grid and other private interests, but I'm just sticking with Grid. We can make this work with the Grid property.
You just make it work with the Grid property?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And they don't even, they're not going to charge us any money for this, are they? We just have to pay for the survey?
The survey is our primary cost at this time. I can't see what, no, Grid's not going to charge a fee that I'm aware of. Certainly if, yeah, no, I don't see that.
Okay. So you're looking for us to approve the expenditure of $2,500 for the purpose of the land survey, correct?
Right, I have the money in my planning budget from last year, and I'm just looking for your authorization to enter into the contract with National.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve, and if needed be, we authorize the administrator to sign a contract with National Land Surveyors Developers, Inc. to have an easement drawn up on National Grid's property between lots 25 and lot 418, not to exceed $2,500. Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Don't go away.
I know.
Moving on to the next item number C, letter C, discussion by council vote other action on SNEP network, interstate MS4 storm water crediting tech assistance. Mr. Kravitz, can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, this is simply a pilot program where you can bring in resources from University of New Hampshire Stormwater Center to analyze stormwater, the subject of stormwater on within various watersheds of the town. And I thought that given what we're doing with, let's say, like green development, big project, right? I mean, that might be a great opportunity to bring in some experts and just analyze not only that project, but other areas in town and other watersheds that they're interested in with the whole purpose of understanding how stormwater affects your watershed. And so it doesn't cost the town anything. They selected us as a town with several others within the Blackstone Valley watershed as a pilot. So I talked with Ray Pendergast. It's going to require a handful of meetings with Ray and I. Other than that, there's no financial commitment. So I figured, let's go for it. It's a great project.
This is just an update. You really don't need any action from the council at this time then?
There is an agreement that we're asking that the town administrator can sign that goes with this.
Okay.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we enter into the pilot program with SNEP network, and we authorize the administrator to sign the agreement.
That's a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Okay, E, we already did, and we're gonna move on to F.
You skipped D.
Oh, I did skip D. Yep, thank you. Discussion by council vote of the action on full reevaluation for the town of North Smithfield. Ms. St. George, are you here?
No, I'll be speaking on her behalf, Mr. President.
Okay.
Okay, this bid was approved with the last town council meeting. This is just a contract to ratify it. There is a couple of changes that we requested from the company. It's the dates on the bottom of page 1, where it says, but no later than April 1st, 2020. That should read April 6th, 2021. And then the second sentence where it says the contractor agrees to complete the work through the informal public hearings on or before, that should read April 20th, 2022. And I'm asking the town council to give me approval to sign this contract to do the full reevaluation. And also our town solicitor needs to sign it too, as to form.
Okay. I'll take a motion to authorize the finance director to sign the contract for the full reevaluation within the town of North Smithfield. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to have the finance director sign and approve the contract with Northeast Revaluation Group LLC with the amended dates as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, discussion.
Mr. Van?
Has the solicitor reviewed this? If he's got to sign it for a form, has he reviewed it? And is it all right? Before we authorize the finance director to sign it, we should make sure that it's approved the form as well.
Mr. Igliosi, are you out there?
I am, Mr. President.
Have you had an opportunity to review this contract for the reevaluation?
I have. I'm satisfied with the contract, Mr. President, as to form.
Okay. And no issues with the minor changes we just made, correct?
No, those are just date changes that obviously correct the timing.
Anything else? Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
can we move up new business letter J for vote, discussion vote of other Maury Fire Tower?
You know what? I apologize. You asked to do that earlier and I skipped it. I apologize. Yes, let's do that.
So I brought this up just because the Maury Fire Tower is in very much need of some renovations and repairs for both the communication purpose as well as the historic purpose. We have some items that were in reserves that have not been used and wanted to rename them so that these monies can be used to take care of any types of renovation or repairs that need to be done. I asked Mr. Branconi to speak tonight in regards to the aspect of the communication and what needs to be done on that end. And I also asked Mr. Keene to speak on the historic aspect of the tower. So, Mr. Branconi, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you mind just going into a little bit of a summary of the tower, what kind of condition it's in, what kind of communication it serves for this area as well as the surrounding communities for us?
1956 is when a new tower was built. DEM did some work on it until the 90s. The town was given the tower by DEM under a open grant program for recreation. After that point, very little work was done. As chairman of the minibus, I got a couple of grants to do some work up there. But since then, the tower is in very, very, very poor condition. One of the walls is practically coming off that tower right now. And we're trying to come up with a game plan to at least hold it together until something is done with the tower. We're fortunate that the state of Rhode Island's RISCON, their major communication system, runs through the tower. So they're on board to kind of help us do something with it. And as I said, I believe the council previously appropriated some money to do some work on the tower. I'm trying to get the state to come on board to do some work with us. As of right now, it's in tough shape. The only thing that hasn't been done is get a structural engineer to see what condition the steel is in. Remember, that tower's been there since 1956. It's been through hurricanes and, you know, windstorms and bad winters. So we're hoping we can have it run for a longer period of time than it's on. Fortunately, from what I understand, because I'm part of that group, it's on the National Register of Historical Fire Towers in the United States. So I believe Mr. Keene has talked about some kind of a heritage group in Rhode Island that may be interested in helping us financially with the tower if there's any funds available. But I'm trying to put most of this on the state because they really, really need that spot. They were eventually going to go to Mount St. Charles in Woonsocket, that big tower you see, the industrial communications. But fortunately, my wife was running a seminar in Providence, and both the state director and the chairman of the State Communications Commission were there. And when I brought them to the tower, they couldn't believe how beautiful that was. I mean, you can see into Worcester, you can see into Narragansett Bay, you can see into Worcester. It's a prime spot for communications. Right now, the state system is running through it. We have repeaters for the fire department, the public works, emergency management, and of course the state's risk-on system is part of that tower, and they love it. They've put up, as you know, and I told you this, I believe, a while ago, about $250,000 between a state shelter, a generator, which we never had. They've done some work in cutting trees down, but it's something that is a prime recreation spot if we wanted to do that. But again, it needs help. It needs a lot of TLC right now.
Thank you, Mr. Brantoni. Mr. Keene, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I think Peter did a great job of taking care of both the history and the communications aspect. I don't have much to add to what Peter told you. There was actually another tower there before the current tower. It was first built in 1923, and it was one of only 5 fire towers in the state of Rhode Island at the time. The tower, it's called Maury Tower. It's named after Ariel Maury, who was a longtime observer. He lived at nearby at the bottom of the hill. Forestry rangers used an alidade sighting mechanism to determine the azimuth or direction to a fire. Azimuths from 2 towers and a map allowed the observers to pinpoint the exact location of each fire. And they used a telephone to report fires to forest wardens and landowners. It's interesting to note that North Smithfield didn't get a fire department until 1938. Before that, fire wardens and local people responded to fires and did the best they could to put them out. As Peter said, the original tower was replaced in 1956 by a new 65-foot steel tower. The Primrose Fire Department installed a radio in the tower in the late 70s to rectify significant gaps in line of coverage or line of sight radio coverage. And DEM maintained the tower until 1990 when it was sold to the town, along with the 5 acres at the top of the hill. Later, the town replaced the telephone poles that provide the electric and telephone service to the tower from Woonsocket Hill Road. And then, as Peter mentioned, more communication systems have been added to the structure since then. Today, Maury Tower is one of only 3 forest fire towers that are still standing in Northern Rhode Island. It was mentioned in the 1980 survey of North Smithfield historic places that was completed by the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Commission. And besides its critical function as a communications tower and its historic value, the town could occasionally open a restored tower for supervised tours. I think Peter mentioned earlier that the tower was actually purchased with a recreational grant. I highly encourage the town to preserve the tower, which holds a unique place in our local history.
Thank you, Mr. King. So tonight, I just wanted to bring to your attention that in this year's current budget, we do have $25,000 in capital that was reserved for work on the tower, whether it be moving the communication or renovation of the tower. But there's also been some money in reserves that's been sitting for many years that has not been used. And my request tonight is to try and get council approval to have the description changed on these reserves so that we can start to initiate getting requests and some sort of plan on to move forward to get this tower preserved back to its natural state, or to a point that we could maybe have residents visit this tower and see the surrounding communities. So the first request is in the amount of $56,312. That's been sitting on the debt reserve balance sheet. It goes back to 2014. So I would like to have that renamed as to restoration or renovation of the Morey Fire Tower. That was my first request. That would be a motion I would like to make.
Discussion. Just a quick question, Mr. Keene, or Mr. Branconia, how much money is it going to take, do you think, to from our end? Like, we're still not far enough along to know how much the state's going to kick in? Or?
That's a great question, and I really hate to even make a guess at that. The first tower was built for about $3,500. I really don't know today to restore it. What it would take. I imagine, I would like to think that we could do it for within that $50,000 range, if not less. But we could get an estimate. So, you're certainly going to need to get quotes or some kind of a planning estimate.
No, I fully support this. I'm just curious if you happen to know the answer to that.
If I can interrupt for a minute, I gave the town administrator a game plan as to what we want to do up there. And what I'm trying to do is to get the state to buy in half of it. There is a program called Emergency Management Planning Grant. I've already spoken to the state grant director, and he told me that's the way to go. So in other words, if the tower is going to cost, and I'm just giving a fictitious number, $60,000, the state would pay 30 and we pay 30. But again, it all depends. We have 4 major projects: the cabin, the tower itself, moving the existing radios into the state shelter, and putting a state-of-the-art camera and audio system up there that would monitor the tower through the police department 24/7. Now, remember, the state has a buy-in to this. They have a generator, they have a shelter with all kinds of communication systems, and they need to make sure that that thing is monitored, and we have a security system too. So they have a buy-in to this, and I think this is something they're willing to work. I believe our former town administrator met with the state director last year, and they had a discussion about the state helping us. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know what they agreed on. But I've asked our town administrator to speak to Mr. Pappas, the state director, and see if there was some kind of a buy-in and how much the state would buy in as far as a financial. But right now, again, it all depends. We'd have to put an RFP out. The basic thing right now is the cabin, the mass cabin. That's ready to come off that roof or off that platform. That's what we need to kind of secure. After that, then it's, we work whenever we have to do whatever we have to do. We're taking all the radios out of there. They're all going to go into the state shelter. That shelter is heated and air conditioned. That cabin, we constantly have broken windows that I'm fixing. it just goes on and on and on. Maybe we don't need windows up there. Who knows?
Anybody else have anything?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, some of you know, Senator Reed came by to have a discussion here in Town Hall. And when I was discussing the Maury Tower with him, it struck a lot of interest with him. They actually took notes because of the historic nature of the tower, as well as the communication needs, as it serves several communities in northern Rhode Island. As everyone is aware, President Biden is coming forward with a new plan to help rebuild infrastructure. We're faced a few of the parameters that the Treasury has set down is clean water, sewer, and also communication, 5G. So we're going to have to take a look at the deed when this property was deeded over to the town. And if there's any way that we can facilitate putting up 5G up there and receiving income from that, they'll go a long way to maintain that tower in the future. The tower is deplorable. It's going to take a lot of work, and hopefully Senator Reed, he really took a lot of interest in this. So until we receive a check, we don't know, but there's interest.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second.
You have a second?
We do.
Okay.
Someone who's second for discussion.
I think that we're going down the right path by identifying funds to go forward on this project. But the next big part of it is we need to know what the cost is. In all due respect to Mr. Branconi and the Senator, we need to look at this, that we're going to take care of it, because there's no checks that we know coming from them. If they do, that's great. So we need to look at this and identify funds that we have if we need to do it, but we need to find out what the total cost is too. We could be putting aside the 56, and I know there's another request for some other funds in the 25, and we could find out that we need 200,000 to do the tower. And so, but we need to look and find out what that is. We're starting that effort. We need to renovate and fix that tower. So we're identifying funds for it. The next step is get someone up there, get the structural engineers up there, carpenters, whoever, tell us what is it going to cost to bring this thing so that it's back weather tight, safe, the whole bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But until we have some sort of number we can start with, and at least if we have to do it in stages, we can. But we have to start somewhere. So.
Right. No, I agree. Let's identify the funds, but we need to find out what our total cost is too.
I totally agree.
This is step one.
Step one
is done.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. Ms. Alves, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. The second request on this Maury Fire Tower also is when we previously transferred the $940,000 that was in contingency, we had a remaining $12,070 that we left in contingency. So I would also like to make a motion that we transfer this money to the reserve of the Maury Fire Tower and have that sit in that account until we can see where we're going with the renovation.
Second for the discussion.
Mr. Badnick?
Those are the funds that were left over from Stammer Mill.
No, this is the funds that were left over from, we left, it was originally Stamina Mill, and then we used.
Well, we just left it in
We used some for
contingency.
codification. This is the remaining from the codification, so that 12,000, I'd like to move it there so it's clean and there's nothing left in contingency until the new budget season.
Okay.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Branconi or Mr. King. Thank you.
Oh, appointments? Okay. Discussion by council, vote of other action on appointments to boards and commissions. The first one is the administrator appointment for the Economic Development Commission. Mr. Zelinski.
Mr. President, we placed an advertisement in right now. We have 3 more days of that advertisement running. We've received one specific application for that position. I would just ask that the council wait until that advertisement lapses and see if we have a qualified candidate. I just want to make sure that we have if there's anybody else out there. It's also been running on our town newsletter every week, which it will again this Friday. So I'd like to take my time before I make that appointment.
Okay. Okay, the second one is the Public Art Advisory Committee. We have a resignation of Mr. Adam Hutchins for personal reasons. So that creates an opening. I would like to entertain a motion to accept Mr. Hutchins' resignation. So moved. You have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
We will send him a letter thanking him for his interest. I don't think we can for his service, but we'll thank him for his interest.
For the meeting he went to. Next, we have a one member for a completion of 2-year term ending 12/1/22. This is a town council appointment. I do have a very good candidate that I would like to nominate. Mr. Ronnie Dizio. If you don't know Mr. Dizio, you have seen his work. I promise you have. Driving into Boston, if you've ever noticed as you go into Boston, just before you get in, all the whales, the whales on the building, Mr. Dizio did that. Mr. Dizio has done a lot of work inside local businesses. He's done work at the Kennedy Manor. There's a retaining wall behind Kennedy Manor. He did a life-size portrait of a covered bridge. You could swim, you could walk right across that covered bridge. It was so real. So Mr. Dizio, I've known Mr. Dizio for a number of years, and he's very talented artist, so I'd like to nominate Mr. Dizio for this board.
I second that nomination. He came into my classroom because I had some of his children. And his presentation kept him so quiet for so long. I wish I could book him daily, but it wouldn't happen. I just think he'd be a real plus for that.
The whole family is talented like that.
Absolutely.
The whole family. So we have a motion and a second for Mr. Dizio. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Did
we advertise that we have an opening on this board just so we could get other?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Yeah.
We did, and we have
Nothing else. Nope.
You're welcome. Anything else? Roll call for Mr. Dizio, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Asset Management Commission. One member for completion of a 5-year term ending 11/3/25. It's the town council appointment. Do we have any nominations? Okay, we'll roll that one over. The Sewer Commission. One member for completion of a 5-year term ending on 11/3/24. Any nominations for the appointment to the Sewer Commission? Okay, we're gonna roll that one over too.
Excuse me, Mr. President. I was having a sidebar with the town clerk and I just distracted her.
It's okay.
She didn't catch one of the discussions that was going on.
No, we just we didn't have any nominations, so we just kept rolling them over.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's it for appointments. Moving on to G, discussion Vote or other action on resolution from the town of Burrville, gun control legislation. Do we have anybody that's on in the Zoom meeting that's requesting to be heard on this? No? They requested that it get put on the agenda, and now they didn't show up for the discussion.
Mr. President, I have the gentleman's name. Maybe he's not the paperwork here. It's Mr. Greg Galano. I don't know if he's in the audience or not.
Mr. Galano, are you out there? Okay. I'm just gonna roll that one over there. Okay, discussion by council vote of other action on potential sale of property, St. Paul Street, plat 3, lot number 4. Okay, this is a piece of property. This is that is designated as a park. There's nothing on it. It's an empty piece of property. It's less than half an acre. There's no parking. It serves the only people that it serves, if it serves anyone, is the people on the other side of that piece of property. What I would like to do is I would like to sell this piece of property and take the money from that sale and put it towards the completing the entrance at Pacheco Park. I had spoke to the Director of Public Works, and on top of the money that we had already found in the budget at the last meeting, on top of whatever we can get for this, he believes that's enough money to at least get the bulk of the work done. There's no reason why we have to have enough money to do a finished product, but at least we can get the driveway in, and then we can always do things to spruce it up as we go along. But the most important thing is that we get started. Last time when we took the money from the sale and we put it towards the actual construction of the property, I said that was step 1. Then I would consider this step 2, because if we can get this funding, then we can get moving on this project, and instead of it sitting around any longer. So, just gotta get my notes away here. But so my motion then is to authorize the at least to begin the process for the sale of purchase for the plat 3, lot number 4. Mr. Iglesias, are you up there?
I am here, Mr. President.
So how would exactly I make word that motion? I'm looking to do. We do want to sell it, but the motion would be to first seek an appraisal for the property.
That's you should appraise the property, and then ultimately the council will have to have a public hearing to determine that the property is no longer of value to the town, and this is the best use, both under the charter and state law. The council has to make that determination.
Okay.
And the only other thing I would suggest is also, although I did receive and review a copy of the deed that the town has, I would ask the council to also authorize a title search, just to make sure that there's no provision anywhere in the title that would limit the town's ability to sell the property without reverting to back to the original grantor. Many times pieces of property are granted to a city or town and there's stipulations in there. I didn't find any in the deed. I just think out of an abundance of caution, you'd want to do a title search. A title search would, somewhere between a couple $100 and $300, somewhere around there. We're talking about a title search only.
Okay. I would like to open a public hearing if there's anybody out there in the audience, but first I will entertain a motion to open a public hearing for if there's anybody in the audience that would like to be heard on this. So I will make a motion.
Motion to open a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Badney. Is there a second? Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. So is there anybody out that's listening on Zoom that would like to be heard on this potential sale of this property on St. Paul Street? Okay. Nobody raising a hand?
I don't see any hands.
Okay. Let's get a motion. Close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadeney.
I'm just curious, should we have advertised that there was a public hearing on this potential sale? Because this, I mean, we see it on the agenda, but that was on Thursday. That's the first I noticed that I saw it. Should we have advertised that we had a public hearing, that we were pursuing or potentially looking to sell this property, so that it was out there in the public, so that there were people that don't even know we're discussing this?
Yeah, I did think about that, and I spoke to Mr. Igliozzi about that. And due to the nature of this agenda item, that a public notice for the public hearing is not required. We can just open it up for a public hearing to the general public if they hear at the time, but an advertised public hearing is not required.
Okay.
All right, so my first motion then will be to authorize a title search for the property, St. Paul Street, Plat 3, Lot number 4. That's a motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Mr. President, I would suggest that you put some cap on it, not to exceed a certain amount of money.
On the title search?
Right. I would say, you know, not to exceed $300, and then if it's more than that, I'll let you know.
Okay, so the motion then will be to authorize the title search not to exceed $300.
Second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I understand that we're gonna go forward and we want to do a title search and then tell us whether we actually can actually sell the property or not. I just want to be on the record, I'm not in favor of selling any property right now. That could come down the road and bite us. It could become a valuable piece of property to the town down the road. I.e., sewers could go into that section of the town that aren't there now, and you're gonna need to put a pump station and try to get an easement to put a pump station on somewhere where we already have a piece of land and it's a piece of open space that's there. It's been my position all along. I'm not a big fan of selling property that the town owns, no matter how small or how insignificant it may appear. We own it, we keep it.
Please.
That property is so small and it's being used by people on either side that if they keep that up for so long, they can keep that land. There's certain law about that. You make that property, and you use it, it's yours. So we're gonna go down that line because you're not gonna build a house on it. And when we wanna go use it, we'll find out we can't. If it was a bigger parcel, I'd be on your side.
Mr. President?
Yeah, I know that somebody wanted to speak, but I'll get to that in 1 second.
Sorry.
I hear what you're saying. If it was like Ms. O'Hara said, if it was a larger piece of land, that land can be used. That's only really benefiting the people on either side of it. Can be used to the greater good to open the entrance at Pacheco Park and serve the whole town. To me, it seems, and that land's a liability. If somebody parks, there's no parking there. So if somebody parks across the street or on Mendon Road and walks across the street and gets hit by a car, that piece of land has been sitting empty with some plastic toys on it for years, and it serves no purpose to the town. And it can be now we can use the assets from that town for a greater good. That's my opinion. I hear what you're saying, but it's such a small piece of land that I think we can. I think the wise move would be to sell and take the money and do something good with it. Anyone else?
Mr. President, Mayor?
Mr. Zelinsky?
Of course, we're involved for appraisal of the property. Is that correct, sir? Is that part of the plan, getting it appraised?
Yes.
Marketing it. think we have the skill set to market it in-house, so we probably have to find a real estate firm to market for us, and whether those discussions may lead.
Yeah. This was so we can just go back, there's a little history on this. This was originally thought up, I'm just following through. Councilman McGee, 3 or 4 years ago, when came up with the idea of selling this property along with the other park on Milton. I think Milton is in a residential, more of a residential area. It wouldn't be a great idea to sell that piece of property, but nevertheless, I think he's right on with selling this piece of property and also in using the money to, and also in the process of those talks, his brother, who was a realtor, offered to list the property for the town and do us a favor at no charge. So that's down. We haven't gotten there yet. So let's get the title search, let's get the appraisal, and then we'll discuss that with him further.
Mr. President, could I just add something to your comment?
Who said that? David,
yes, just so you know, I assume after you get that information, that's when the council is going to make a determination, which is required by the charter, that the property is no longer useful to the town, and this is the best purpose.
Correct. We're going to get the information first, if it's even viable, and if it is, right, then we'll take that next step.
That would be the next step. You'd have to have a vote by the council, and if somebody feels they want a report from the parks director or any other information they need to make that decision, I just wanted to throw that out. That prior to that vote, you should get any information in front of you, the appraisal, the title search, and any information to make that decision.
So what I'm looking for tonight is I'm going to ask we already actually have the motion to authorize the title search not to exceed $300, and then I will have another motion to seek an appraisal, and then we'll take it from there to the next meeting.
You do that without being on the agenda?
Or for the next meeting.
Oh, the appraisal for the next meeting, not tonight. The only thing we can seek tonight is the title search.
You're right. It's not on there.
I think it's important to get the title search because that may determine whether we could even do anything or not. I mean, I can't read this.
Yeah, I know.
I can't read this. I don't care how much you magnify it. It gets worse if you magnify it. But someone will do a title search and you don't know. It's just like on this property, on Kendall D property at one time. It stopped being used as a school. It reverted back to the mill owners. And eventually it fell by the wayside because the laws have changed around and we can no longer put that sticker. But this could be like a Barry Field type of thing where it has to remain open space playground or something. Right. And we don't know if there's a deed restriction on it. I mean, you have deed restrictions on houses in this town. Honest to God, you can't sell tobacco to the Indians. They're still on their deeds because they haven't been cleared. The titles haven't been cleared. They go way back and all kinds of things. So you get strange stuff sometimes.
All right, so let's get the title search and we'll see what happens from there. So we do have a motion and a second on that. Do we have any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. House?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Did you say that we had somebody in there that wanted to be heard?
Cynthia Roberts raised her hand.
Ms. Roberts?
Hi, yes, this is Cynthia Roberts, 49 Week Street. I wanted to mention that a few years ago, some residents had brought an idea to a town council meeting about the property that you're discussing. And we had, it was Megan Staples who had this to the town council. And we raised the suggestion that that land could be a well-placed small pop-up, either park or like small community garden for the people who live in that part of North Smithfield. And I do want to point out that I have heard people say that it's of no value to the town, but I also heard Mr. Vadnez say, I'm paraphrasing, but I feel like I heard him say that he would rather not lose land that we own as a community. And there's a trend right now, probably if Mr. Kravitz is on the call still, he would probably agree that there's a trend in planning where communities use the land that they have in different parts of the community to make it accessible to all people. So not everyone owns a car. And a lot of us remember the days when there were smaller parks and open space closer to our homes and we could walk to them. So not everybody lives near Hallowell, not everyone lives near Pacheco Park. So that little piece of land, in my opinion, working in place-based health is more of an asset to our community than selling it for whatever amount of money we would get. It's probably smallish. And the other thing is with global climate change, different parts of communities will experience heat islands. So having buffers with trees and grass and open space is of great value. And we should also know that during future pandemics, like the one we're in right now, living near open space is health promoting. So for all those reasons, as a resident who cares about place-based health and equity, I would be in very strong favor of not selling that property. And I don't believe I'm the only person who feels that way. So thanks for listening to me.
Okay. Was there anybody else that wanted to be heard? Okay. So that was that. Let's move on. Give me 1 second. Discussion by council vote on other action on payment of invoices. Mr. Jesus, you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you. These are just invoices that came from the school department. They're going to be paid from the revolving account. Do you want me to list them all with the amounts?
I don't think that's necessary. We can do that when we make the motion.
Okay.
Unless there's anything specific that you wanted to discuss on these?
No. They were all approved by the school committee.
Okay. So the first one is invoice number 3522. In the amount of $1,093.50 for the performance of testing of elementary school unit ventilators. Review and update CX issues log. Coordinate CX meeting. Project correspondence. This has been signed by Mr. St. Jean, the superintendent, Mr. CPE facilities director, and Mr. Lombardi. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the invoice from Stephen Turner Inc. dated 2/28/21. Invoice number 3522 in the amount of $1,093.50.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vadeney.
make a motion that we approve the invoice to Stephen Turner Inc. dated 1/31/21, invoice number 3469 in the amount of $147.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the invoice from Stephen Turner Inc. Invoice number 3316 dated 9/30/20 in the amount of $1,858.50.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Stephen Turner Inc. invoice dated 9/30/20, invoice number 3319 in the amount of $6,102.30.
That's a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Stephen Turner Inc. invoice number 3407 dated 12/31/20 in the amount of $2,524.10.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. We have the Gilbane.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the invoice for Gilbane. Invoice number J08248.000-12, dated November 9th, 2020, in the amount of $14,321.66.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve STV invoice number 9001913 dated 2/9/21 in the amount of $285.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
President,
Ms. Alves?
I'd like to make a motion to approve STV invoice number 900201336 dated March 8th, 2021 in the amount of $95.
With the motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Carvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Badnees?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd just like everyone to know that those invoices that we just paid, most of that was for the work that was done to the unit ventilators at North Smithfield Elementary School and high school, and a little bit in the middle school. And the results of that were phenomenal. The EFO in the schools were unbelievable when the state came in and inspected them in order to open schools back up because of the pandemic. We passed with flying colors. They were amazed at what we accomplished in a short amount of time. So,
Great, thank you for that. Okay, we took care of J, let's move on to K. Discussion by council vote on the action on credit card vendor for tax software. This is for an authorization of for a signature.
is this something that we're presently using right now? We're just dating, or is this something new?
Cynthia, I think Cynthia should be.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
We used to use, we were using Point and Pay, and it is not compatible with our Vision software for the tax collection. So Vision and Opal got together with other municipalities and went out and got GoVolution to be more compatible. So right now we're not accepting any credit cards unless they call the 800 number because the system's not working. So other municipalities have signed this contract to go with GoVolution. There's no change in fee, doesn't cost the town any money. All the fees are per transaction. It's still the 3% per transaction. The only difference is it's just another vendor. It really is not going to change any of the transaction fees. In fact, we'll be able to accept Discover and I believe American Express when we weren't able to accept those with Point and Pay.
What do they get? They get 3%?
They get 3%.
Wow.
Yes. Then that was the same rate that Point and Pay. That's usually the customary normal rate of what the credit cards companies charge when you want to use a credit card online. So there's no cost to the town at all.
Okay.
Cynthia, were there any other, did we go to any other credit card processors to find out if there are any other deals that could be made with the credit card processing fee? 3% is a little high. I was just wondering if we looked around to any other companies.
No, we have not. Vision and Opal actually did the looking around for us because it has to be compatible with our system for us to be able to download and accept the credit cards. So no, we have not looked to see if there's any other ones that were lower.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the signature for Govolution. Authorize the administrator to sign.
So moved.
Did you say something? Okay. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Any further discussion?
You know, it's just funny because more people are pushing that. They want you to pay online and whatnot, like National Grid will pay you bill online, and then you pay it online, and they charge you a fee to do that. Or they charge you a fee if you want to pay it in person.
Because they don't want to lose the percentage that they pay.
Yeah. So it just the nature of the beast, I guess, that they want you to pay online, but then there's a fee that they're going to charge you for it. And if you want to pay it in person, there's a fee to charge to pay it in person as well.
Right, because if you pay with the charge card wherever you go, the vendor has to pay the charge card fee, no matter what.
Yep.
So, you know, National Grid and municipalities don't want to absorb that cost, so it goes to the taxpayer, the person that's making the payment.
Do we have a lot of people sitting here that actually use their credit card to pay?
Actually, yes, because we've been
mailing in a check.
We do get quite a few, yes, more than I thought when I was looking the other day, because we've been getting a lot of phone calls that the system's not working, and it isn't. But people are making it through the phone, which is the same cost, but it's able to be on the phone, but we can't download it into our system.
Okay.
So it's just one extra step that we have to do until we get the new vendor up and running, if you approve it.
Cynthia, would this agreement be just for 1 year?
Good question. One second. I thought I saw.
Saxon.
Cynthia, I'm just looking at the terms, and it says the terms of the agreement shall be period for 3 months from the date of the agreement, and automatic 1-year renewals until termination notice is provided by either party. That's number 3.
Oh, I see that 30 days in advance. Okay, yes.
So we could back on it. We could change it at any time after 3 months.
Right.
It looks like we just need to give them a 30-day notice.
And we're going to be switching. We're going to be in the process of updating the software we have. I mean, it's going to be cloud-based and everything, and I'm hoping there'll be other vendors that will be more compatible, and that we can probably utilize that maybe less of a fee to the taxpayers.
Okay, anything else?
So, Cynthia, can I just ask if we do go into this agreement, can we just kind of look into other processors and see if there's some better rates? Because when you do look at the termination, you have to give them 30 days, which means we would have to give them notification in 2 months from now. And if we don't, then it's just going to renew for a full year. So can we look into some other processors during this next month or two to see if there are any better rates that we can be offered?
Sure, I'll send an email out to all the finance directors and see what other people use, and then I'll go from there and reach out to all the companies.
Yeah, because if we are getting if we are getting a high volume of people using credit cards, the 3% is gonna add up after a while, especially with the real estate taxes and stuff.
Absolutely. It just has to be compatible with our software. So I'll send like a mass email out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
John, can I ask one more question? I don't know if this is done in any cities and towns, but all my bills are directly taken out of my checking. Utilities, you name it. I don't know if any cities and towns, if you have enough in a checking to have that done, so it'd be an automatic as of that date. Have you heard of a city and town doing that?
That the city and town would actually go into your account and pull
Yeah, that's all my utilities done that. My Visa's done that way.
Oh,
If I could get one socket water to do it that way, it'd be great.
I think that's something Cynthia to answer. Cynthia, do you
And
have?
there's no fee on that.
Cynthia, do you have a program where you would just, if somebody gave you their checking account number, you would just debit their checking account?
No,
No.
we're not that sophisticated, but maybe our new system might be able to do that. But as of right now, we don't have that capability in our software.
It'd be great, especially people may be away in winter, this and that, and other things are paid.
Well, you can pay it online through your checking.
Yeah, you can pay through your bank. We get that, and that's free.
Well, they just go in, whatever bill I have on my checking, they pay.
Yeah, so they're pulling it.
They're pulling it right out automatically, and the funds are there, and you have an overdraft, and that's what it's at.
You must have signed up and given your bank.
I asked them to do it when I was
Yeah.
sick, so when I was out of town, I was not really on it.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Mr. President, I'd just like to ask the council if they've, I'm sure you have, just review fees, section 21, and is that amenable to council members? Also, if I would, with your permission, Mr. President, ask the solicitor to take a look at that, section 21.
That's only if we're going to absorb the cost. They will withdraw it from our account.
So who is absorbing?
But I'm not giving them authority to withdraw anything from our account because it's not going to be our fee to pay.
I'm just concerned who is paying for the convenience of using the credit card. Is there a fee to the client, the citizen? We understand that there is interest on a credit card, but is there an additional fee to the citizen to use the credit card?
Yes.
3%.
Not 3% if you use my credit card. Maybe for you.
No.
But
In this agreement, it's 3%. So if you pay your bill, there's a 3% surcharge on it for them to process that payment. Yes. The question that Mr. Zelinski just asked on section 21 is if we're not charging the residents that 3%, that's what that issue is about.
Yeah, right. The municipality can afford the cost.
Charging an additional 3%. That's going to be
we're not charging it, we're not waiving it.
At the discretion of the citizen that's paying. I just want to make that very clear.
Right.
Yeah.
The more you dig, the more you find.
It's a convenience.
Yeah, but
it's a convenience. It's going to be up to the citizen. This has to be spelled out quite clearly to them if they understand that they're paying 3% on 100 rounded to the nearest 100.
So begs the next question then: if the citizen is getting whacked 3% for using the credit card, is the town also paying a fee?
No.
Nothing. Okay, so we get the whole amount, and the money, they make their money off the person using the credit card.
Correct. And when the citizen goes online, it actually tells them that. Like, for instance, if the bill's $100, before they can proceed, it says, do you agree on such and such a fee? And they'll have to say yes or no. If they say no, obviously they can't use the credit card. But yes, it'll actually ask them again if they want to pay the transaction fee.
This is just the opposite. If you were to use your credit card on any major sales, the consumer is not paying the 3%.
The retailer that processes
this is a little different, so it has to be very clear. Extremely clear.
Yeah, if you're paying a $7,000 tax bill.
If you're late, what's the percentage of being late? That's really high.
Will that be up to the credit card?
No. For the town, if you're late.
Well, the town's late.
I think it's 18%.
Let's say, what is it? If you're late?
I think it's 18%.
Well, right there.
It's prorated. It's so much every month, I believe.
It's 12%. It comes out to like 1% a month.
Okay.
That's where I'm.
It's a convenience. The citizen's going to have to pay for it. Just make it very clear. That's all.
We're not making 3% on it.
We're not.
All right, so we have a motion and a second And the request is that during this 3-month period, Cynthia, if you can just do a little homework and find out if there's a better deal out there for us and what other municipalities are using.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ms. Alves made a good point. She says it's really 2 months because you have to give a 30-day notice. So
I'll send the email tomorrow. I'll get an answer probably by your next meeting.
Okay.
Or close to it, you know. I'll get it within the next month.
Mr. President, are we advocating to hold up on approving this and signing this until we get more information?
No, right now the motion is to approve it, and then we, because according to this, we can get out of the contract within the next 2 months.
I think the question the administrator is asking is, do we want to wait 2 weeks and do more homework before we approve it? Is 2 weeks going to do us?
It's going to take months for this to, like, some municipalities are still waiting for this to go up and running. It's just going to hold up the use of credit cards, and people are calling. I mean, it's up to you, but.
Taxes are due the 15th, correct?
Excuse me?
Taxes are due the 15th of this month?
Yes, April 15th, and people are already calling asking why our credit cards are not working.
We may want to do this, even if it's in the interim.
Yeah.
Much as we don't like it.
I don't see us getting any lower rate. I'll tell you that, because I know I researched this before when I worked in my previous employment, and the rates are very comparable across the board.
No, I know. I just think that, you know, some citizens are gonna be like, "Well, I'll use my card and get the points." And little do they realize that they're getting whacked 3%. To get 1%, to get 1% back. If they're late, but that's up to the credit card.
It would help them offset late fees, because if they didn't make the payment, now they're subject to late fees.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second on this. So anybody else? Roll call.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnaes?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion was to have the administrator sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what it was. That whole discussion. So yeah. Your name on it. Thank you very much.
We dug a little bit. National Grid Electric Company, Verizon pole location, Hero Drive. Ms. Pendergast, have you been waiting?
Oh, yes, I have. This is kind of just a basic formality that Grid gives to us that you have to approve. So this is in conjunction with the construction at Lapre Bridge construction. They're moving poles all over the place. So I think it's kind of all explained in the letter to you. So I'm just pushing it forward for them to move forward.
You recommend approval?
Yes.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the request of National Grid and Verizon work order number WY number 303-39820 for moving that telephone pole on here. That's submitted.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Badnaes?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. So now we're going to go back to the top, executive session. And before we do that, Connor, how'd we do? We did all right? All right, now what executive session is we discuss any legal situations that towns have. And when we have executive session, that's a closed, it's called a closed session. So we shut down so the public can't hear it. And unfortunately, you can't hear it. Okay. But I think, did you learn anything today? Yes. I hope you come back. And if any critique, email me if I made any mistakes or any you have any suggestions that we can do things better. All right? You're gonna be able to get a ride? Yeah. You don't have to wait outside, you can wait in the hall. Boy, you don't have to go stand outside. Yeah. You're welcome, good job. Okay. Executive session, closed session. Discussion by council vote on other action on Rhode Island Journal Law 42-46-5A2, sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. Prime Healthcare Services, Landmark LLC, and Prime Healthcare Services, Landmark MOB LLC versus Sarah Few in her capacity as tax assessor for the town of North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Case number PC 2018-502. And B, Prime Healthcare Services, Landmark LLC, and Prime Healthcare Services, Landmark MOB LLC versus Michelle Mariani in her capacity as tax assessor for the town of North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Case number PC 10662. Prime Healthcare Services LLC and Prime Healthcare Services Landmark MOB LLC versus Michelle Mariani in her capacity as tax assessor for the town of North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Case number PC 2020000895. And D, Prime Healthcare Services Landmark LLC and Prime Healthcare Services Landmark MOB LLC versus Michelle Mariani in her capacity as tax assessor for the town of North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Case number PC 202-0642. I will now entertain a motion to move into executive session. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. President, I had a discussion with the solicitor. Mr. McNeil, are you there?
I'm here, Mr. President.
We discussed adding an item to the closed session.
Councilman, my understanding, you certainly can add an item to closed session. If you want to add an item, if that's still on the table. I thought it was a discussion you had an interest in and to discuss the Weston and Sampson contract.
Correct.
If you want to do that, you can. It has to be a motion to amend the executive session to add the Weston and Sampson contract, and it has to be seconded. Roll call vote. Keep in mind that that item could only be discussed in executive session. It cannot be voted on in any way, shape, or form.
Did you want to add that? Did you want to add that?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to make a motion that we amend the executive session to include item E, the Weston and Sampson contract. We cannot take, or as the solicitor said, we can't take action on it, but we need to be aware of something that's going on with it. Okay. We shouldn't discuss it in session. We can't take action on it, but it's just so you're aware of it.
Understood that. We have a motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Roll call, please. Yeah.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. Okay, now I will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. We are now in executive session.
All right. Am I taking everybody off?
Yep.
Okay, just give me a second, okay?
Two votes were taken. That's a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes. And the two votes that were taken was the first vote that was taken was to settle.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, am I recording this?
Yes, we're in open session
Yeah,
now.
we came out.
Stay in the room?
You want me to start over?
No, I've been recording it, but then I got a little nervous. I heard, okay, go ahead.
Is there anybody, Mr. President, point of order. Is anybody out there that wants to come in the room before you're in open session?
There's nobody waiting in the waiting room.
All right.
At all.
So we're back in open session, Mr. President.
Okay.
All right, we're back in open session.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right, so the motion, I will make a motion to come out of the executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2. Seal the minutes and indicate 2 votes were taken. That is a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Alves? Yes. Mr. Carbo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez?
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. And for the record, the 2 votes that were taken, the first vote was to settle the case with Prime Healthcare Services Landmark LLC.
Mr. President, all 4 cases,
Settle all 4 cases with Prime Healthcare Services Landmark LLC and Prime Healthcare Services Landmark MOB LLC for the sum of $197,243.16. That was the first vote that was taken. And the second vote that was taken was to authorize settlement and execution of settlement in the form presented and authorize the president to sign the agreement. Those are the 2 votes that were taken. Is there anything else? Or I think that's it, right? David, did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it, Mr. President. You've announced publicly the results of the settlement, and you've announced both votes. There's nothing to vote on.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
David.
night.
David.